Hey, what's up YouTube? It's Julian here with Metro Man Cave. I'm gonna do a quick unboxing and a side-by-side comparison of the Sony RX100 Mark II versus the Mark III. This weekend I dropped my Mark II right before I'm about to go to a trip to Austin, Texas, and so I had to go purchase this bad boy. The Mark II was an awesome camera. I loved it. The hot shoe was pretty cool, but it's about 2 years old, and as you can see, it's been through the ringer and then some. And yeah, it just, you know, they can't survive everything, so my bad. But yeah, so I'm gonna step up today to the Mark III right here. And I'm pretty excited for this because there's a lot of updates in between the Mark II and the Mark III. It's, let's see, August of 2015, so there already is the Mark IV out, and I'll kind of go into why I did not choose the Mark IV over the Mark III, but more of that. So let's go ahead and unbox this bad boy and see what we got. Okay, let's go ahead and start here. As always, Sony has some amazing packaging, as most companies do nowadays. If we open this bad boy up, first we're gonna have a gratuitous amount of manuals and pamphlets and God knows what else. I mean, shoot, I probably only breeze through this one to see what other cameras are out there, but beyond that, that's just garbage. Let's go ahead and open this up. We're gonna have obviously a power brick. If you own any Sony product, you probably have like 12 of those like I do. And yet another charging cable. Wrist strap, very important. Here we have the actual unit itself. Looks like in the box we have the you get the dual wrist straps for those types of people who wear it around the neck, and then an extra battery. Now I got like 12 of these. And here we have the actual unit itself. All right. So here we are. Okay, so here we are. So here we have the Mark II on the left-hand side, and we have the Mark III on the right-hand side. Obviously, nothing's really changed, except for the obvious major change, I would guess, the hot shoe, no longer there. That's kind of good and bad depending on who you are and your, I don't know, I guess, how you use it or the purpose you bought this camera for, but Sony has gone ahead and done away with it. I'm not going to go into a ton of the specs of this camera because if you're watching this video, you probably already know what the specs are. Right now, I just kind of want to focus on why I went with the Mark III over the Mark IV and kind of the differences between the Mark II and the Mark III. So let's kind of dive right in. Okay, so why did I choose the Mark III over the Mark IV? First, let's talk about the differences between the Mark III and the Mark II. As far as the sensor and the pixel range, those are all the same through every single series of the RX100 as far as reasonable practical ways of looking at it. Side by side, they're the exact same size. There's no major differences to the appearance or anything like that. One thing that's pretty cool about the Mark III and above is the screen flips up all the way, which is pretty cool. So if you're kind of like me and really into the whole vlogging YouTube world, that's kind of a kicker because, you know, the Mark II, I mean, while it was useful, you know, you could do like, you know, low angle shots like this, kind of up highs like so, and that's, you know, that's pretty useful for the time. But I mean, the function of having the whole selfie mode, that's pretty huge, and I really dig that. So that was number one. I mean, because I was thinking about maybe replacing my Mark II with another Mark II, because I have a bunch of hot shoe accessories that I wanted to kind of carry over, but I guess it's time to kind of move forward. But the thing that really took me away from wanting to get the Mark IV over the Mark III was, yeah, the Mark IV shoots in 4K, which is great, but I'm just not, I mean, it's not really necessary right now. I know it's only $100 difference between the Mark III and the Mark IV. What's the deal, right? But it's just, to me, not necessary. I don't need a 4K camera, a 4K pocketable camera yet, because my wife vlogs too, and she doesn't shoot in 4K, and if we blend the footage, it'd be just kind of a waste. And plus, most people don't have 4K monitors yet. It's kind of like how, you know, when 1080p first came out a couple years ago, not everyone had full HD monitors, but now they do. It's a bigger thing. So that's a big reason, number one, why I wanted to go with the Mark III over the Mark IV. Okay, so again, as it sits, you know, right now, it's August of 2015. You could still pick up a Mark II for around $500 to $600 new, depending on which retailer you're shopping at. Whereas the Mark III comes in at about $800 to start. That's a pretty significant jump. Is it worth the price difference? I'm gonna say yes, because that flip-up screen is huge. And it's just nice to be able to, I don't know, I guess get rid of the hot shoe because it becomes a little bit more pocketable. But I mean, when you compare them side by side, you know, I mean, how often do you use a hot shoe? I mean, I used it all the time for my purposes, yet more and more, if I needed to use a hot shoe application, I need to be using something like, you know, my A7S or something like that. But for a day-to-day camera, something that's gonna shoot, you know, an exquisite photo and a great video, you know, the Mark III definitely does what it needs to. Is it worth the price? I still don't know if just the everyday person can justify it. That's probably why the Mark IIs are still kind of like really popular, because, you know, if you can get the Mark II now for 600 bucks, when the original retailed for 7 to 8, you know, it's not a bad deal to step into the RX100 world. I would definitely not go for the RX100 Mark I. That's just outdated all around. So between the three models right now, that's really just kind of hot. The RX100 Mark II, Mark III, and Mark IV. You know, I think the Mark III is a good blend. I mean, if you don't need 4K, why pay the extra 100 bucks for it? So now let's just look at the Mark III specifically. So let's, you know, kind of power this thing on and kind of talk about what it can do. So now they've centered the flash as a top mount in the center, which is nice because I guess, you know, it'll just be a more center mounted flash. Not that the previous flash didn't do its job properly, but what's gonna be kind of cool too is now you have a viewfinder. So you just drop this down here and then you pull out the viewfinder. And so then we're gonna have it. So when your face is close enough to the viewfinder, it'll switch over, it'll know. The viewfinder is something that's gonna be great for the everyday avid photographer. For someone like myself who's more into video, I don't necessarily need it, but I guess it's kind of cool to have if I wanted to kind of get into more of a higher range photography game. But the fact that they kind of like top mounted the flash, and this also acts as a power button, which is kind of neat. So when you shut that down, the whole thing powers down, which is pretty cool. It gives it a cleaner appearance, again slightly more pocketable, which is nice because this is technically considered a pocketable camera. It is quite thick though, so I'm not sure if you necessarily want to have this in your pocket because you might look like you have a raging camera on. So otherwise, I mean, the camera itself is just nice. It's a pretty camera, it's clean. Obviously you know about the RX100 if you're watching this video. It's one of the best cameras on the market. Is it worth 800 bucks? It's still kind of questionable. I really only had to buy the stake because I was in a pinch. I'm flying out to Austin, Texas, and I kind of need this camera. Would I pay 800 bucks for it on any given day? Probably not. But again, I've been wanting this camera for a while now, and to me, the pros and cons of the Mark IV versus the Mark III just didn't pan out. Not for me at least. So I went ahead and stuck with the Mark III, and I'm pretty happy so far about the purchase. So some final thoughts about the Sony RX100 Mark III. Number one, get a screen protector. I got my Mark II for a trip to Australia a couple years ago, and let's see if this will pick it up. But within just a very short amount of time, the screen just got jacked up, and as you can see it today, maybe you can tell, maybe you can't. It was just torn up. For such an expensive camera, I was really disappointed at how weak the screen strength was. So definitely get that screen protector. And you know, I bought the warranty on this thing. It was like about 145 bucks. But you know, if you're spending $800 to $900 on the camera, what's another 150 to, you know, replace it? I got some kind of 3-year diamond warranty, which means if I break it, if I drop it, if it falls, anything, water, they'll replace it, you know, no questions asked. So it's worth it for the peace of mind, because I dropped this bad boy a couple times. Once it fell off a car while I was moving, and it still worked afterwards, not that well, but it still worked. And then just this weekend, I dropped it. And so that's why we're here today talking about the Mark III. Again, do I think it's worth 800 bucks? I don't know. I'm not really quite sold on it. I mean, money's not like the biggest thing in my world, yet I don't want to spend money frivolously. I needed a camera, and I wanted to replace my Mark II, but I didn't want to get another Mark II because I just felt like that would have been just, you know, going backwards, even though it would be the same things I already had. So here we are with the Mark III. I love it so far. Again, it's everything the Mark II ever was, and then some. And for me, it's this flip-up screen. That's kind of what makes it, because you know, I do a lot of this when I'm talking to the camera out in the field, so that part's huge. So yeah, not a bad camera, but for 800 bucks, you might want to do some research. Well, there you have it. That was another episode of Metro Man Cave. Again, I'm an everyday user. I'm not an avid photographer or videographer. I'm just kind of a hobbyist, and I really love reviews, and I watch them all the time. I always miss things in reviews, so hopefully this review is kind of helpful. Make sure to subscribe down below or give me a like if you enjoyed the video, and comment if you have any questions. I love to interact with the viewers as far as questions and whatnot. Make sure to check out my other channels. My lifestyle vlog would be Adventures with AJ. Me and my wife just kind of show you what we do on a day-to-day basis. And also my real estate channel is called Home Deals TV with a Z. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and we'll see you again next time.